There is something profoundly unsettling about the laughter of those who mock your suffering. When you were brought low, when your heart was breaking, when you carried wounds no one else could see, they chose to smile. They celebrated your hardship as if your pain was their entertainment. They clapped their hands when you fell, and they whispered with delight when misfortune entered your life. And though you endured it in silence, do not think heaven was blind. God saw every grin, every smirk, every moment they exulted in your misery. Life has a way of revealing the truth. For a time it may look as though evil prospers, as though cruelty has the upper hand, as though betrayal and mockery win the day. But God is not mocked, and He does not let arrogance stand forever. Just as the sun eventually breaks through the longest night, so too will His justice break into your story. The very moments they cherished, your suffering, your tears, your pain, will return to them not as triumph, but as regret. Think of this: what they laughed at will one day weigh on their hearts like a heavy stone. They will remember the times they enjoyed your downfall, and that memory will no longer taste sweet but bitter, for God will turn it into their shame. The same lips that smirked will tremble, the same eyes that mocked will look away, unable to bear the weight of what they once took pleasure in. Why? Because your pain was never wasted. In the mystery of God's design, the wounds you carried became the soil for strength, the fire for endurance, the seed for blessing. What they thought destroyed you was, in truth, building you. While they rejoiced in your breaking, heaven was preparing your rising. And when you stand restored, blessed, and lifted, their celebration will crumble into silence, their laughter into regret. It is written that God prepares a table before you in the presence of your enemies. That means they will see with their own eyes the goodness of the Lord poured into your life. They will have no choice but to witness the very opposite of what they desired. Every time they wished for your downfall, God will make them watch your elevation. Every time they cheered your struggle, God will make them sit as spectators to your breakthrough. And here is the heart of the matter. Regret is not merely a feeling of sorrow. It is a realization, too late, that one has stood against the hand of God. When they laughed at you, they laughed at the work God was doing in you. When they mocked you, they mocked the one who created you. And when He turns the story around, their regret will not just be about how they treated you, but about how they resisted Him. So take heart. If you have been mocked, if your tears were someone else's celebration, if your pain became another's entertainment, know this: God is not silent. He is writing a story that will reverse the roles. Their joy will turn into shame, their laughter into regret, and your sorrow into strength. The same heaven that recorded your pain has also recorded their cruelty, and the God of justice will repay. Your call is not to seek revenge, not to fight with your own hands, but to trust. Because when God lifts you, it will not just be a blessing, it will be a revelation. They will know without question that the one they mocked is the one who chose you. And every moment they rejoiced in your pain will echo back into their own souls as a haunting reminder that God will not be mocked, and His chosen will not be forsaken. There is a painful silence that follows betrayal and mockery. You know that feeling. When your heart is aching, when your soul is carrying the weight of disappointment, and the very people you thought might comfort you instead laughed at your struggle. They rejoiced in your failure, and their laughter cut deeper than the wound itself. It is a cruel thing when another human being, made in the image of God, finds delight in your pain. And yet, as isolating as those moments may have felt, you were never truly alone in them. God saw. He saw the smirk on their faces when you stumbled. He saw the conversations whispered behind closed doors, where your name was thrown around like a joke. He saw the way their eyes sparkled when they heard of your loss, and the way they celebrated what they thought was your destruction. None of it escaped his notice. We often forget that while human beings can hide their hearts behind smiles and masks, nothing can be hidden from the gaze of the Almighty. He not only saw their actions, he discerned their intentions. He measured their motives and he recorded every moment. And that should bring you comfort. Because sometimes the deepest ache is not simply the betrayal itself, but the thought that nobody understands. Nobody truly knows what you are going through. You cry in the night, and the world moves on as though nothing has happened. But there is one who counts every tear. Scripture reminds us that he keeps them in his bottle, recorded in his book. If God is careful enough to count your tears, do you think he would overlook the laughter of those who caused them? When people mocked your pain, they were mocking not just you, but the presence of God in your life. They forgot that you are his child, his creation, his chosen one. And when someone mocks a child of God, they do not realize the weight of what they have done. They are not just laughing at your humanity, they are standing against heaven itself. That is why their laughter is so dangerous, not for you, but for them. Because every smirk was noted, every cruel word recorded, every celebration of your pain weighed on the scales of justice. In the moment, it felt like you were defenseless. It felt as though the wicked triumphed and the righteous were trampled. But God's justice does not operate on human timelines. He is patient, allowing people the chance to repent. But his patience should never be mistaken for blindness. The laughter that stung you is already echoing in his courts, and in time those echoes will return to them as regret. So lift your head, even if the memory of their joy in your pain still haunts you. God has not forgotten. You are seen, and so are they. Their smirks will not go unanswered. Their celebration will not remain unchallenged. The very moments they thought you were finished were the moments heaven was making a record, and God will ensure those memories, once so sweet to them, will turn sour in their souls. There is a sobering reality in life. The very things people once rejoiced over can become the source of their deepest sorrow. When your enemies mocked you, when they rejoiced in your downfall, they believed the story was finished. They believed their laughter would echo forever and that your tears would remain unanswered. But they forgot something essential. God always has the final word. What they celebrated was temporary. They laughed at your failure, but failure was never your ending. They rejoiced in your suffering, but suffering was never your identity. They mocked your silence, but silence was never your destiny. In the wisdom of God, every wound has purpose, every struggle carries meaning, and every tear is sowing a harvest. While they were laughing, heaven was planning, and when heaven steps in, celebration quickly becomes regret. Think about it. Regret is born when the truth can no longer be denied. They will remember the moments they took pleasure in your pain, and those memories will haunt them. Regret will come when they see that the very person they laughed at has been lifted higher than they ever imagined. Regret will come when they watch God restore you, bless you, and honor you in ways they never thought possible. They will sit in the silence of their own shame, realizing that their mockery was not just foolish, it was self-condemning. The irony of divine justice is this: the tables always turn. Today's mockery becomes tomorrow's silence. Today's laughter becomes tomorrow's trembling. Today's celebration becomes tomorrow's regret. God knows how to turn things around in such a way that those who thought they were winning realized too late that they were fighting against his hand. And here is where your peace lies. You don't need to repay them. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to seek revenge, because God himself will orchestrate the reversal. He has a way of letting them taste the bitterness of their actions. Their joy will rot into shame, their laughter into sorrow. What they called triumph will return to them as a haunting memory. This is why you must stay steady in your faith. Don't let their laughter define you. Don't let their temporary celebration rob you of hope. The God who sees is also the God who acts. He will ensure that every cruel grin, every mocking word, every false celebration is transformed into regret, and not just a fleeting regret, but the kind that lingers, the kind that teaches, the kind that breaks pride and humbles the arrogant. So, hold on. Their celebration is not the final note in your story. God is writing a greater ending. And when His hand moves, the very people who once rejoiced in your pain will be left with nothing but regret. Pain is not something we choose, but it often chooses us. It arrives uninvited, interrupts our peace, and leaves behind scars that never seem to fade. Yet in the strange mystery of God's hand, pain is never wasted. While others laughed at your suffering and rejoiced in your wounds, heaven was using that very pain as a seed. What looked like destruction was actually construction. What looked like the end was preparation for a greater beginning. The soil of your suffering is not barren. It is rich with potential. Every tear you cried watered the ground for growth you could not yet see. Every disappointment pressed you deeper into dependence on God. Every betrayal taught you the truth about trust, loyalty, and the reality of human hearts. And while those who mocked you thought they were watching your demise, God was watching your development. Think of how the seed functions. When it is planted in the ground, it looks buried, forgotten, lifeless. To the outside eye, it seems lost. But under the soil, a miracle is taking place. It is breaking, stretching, pushing, and preparing for growth. The breaking of the seed is not its death, it is its transformation. So too with your pain. What others celebrated as your burial was actually your planting. They laughed as if you were done, but God saw you as just beginning. Your pain became a teacher. It whispered lessons you could not have learned in comfort. It carved out depths in your soul that joy alone could never create. It taught you compassion for others who suffer. It birthed endurance, and it sharpened your discernment. It taught you how to recognize the true from the false, the loyal from the betrayer, the pure from the counterfeit. Pain, though harsh, refined you into gold. And here lies the beauty. God turns what others meant for evil into the very thing that lifts you. Your suffering, though mocked, was never in vain. Heaven wastes nothing. Every season of pain was storing up power for the season of blessing. When you rise, and you will, the same people who laughed will be forced to acknowledge that it was the soil of your pain that produced your strength. And that is where their regret will deepen, because they thought your pain was their entertainment, but in truth it was your empowerment. They thought it was your end, but it was your beginning. They thought they had destroyed you, but they had only participated in the process of your transformation. So do not despise your wounds. They are not empty. They are seeds of greatness. They carry within them the story of a God who can take ashes and make beauty, who can take loss and produce abundance, who can take rejection and birth promotion. While they laughed at your brokenness, heaven was writing your restoration. And soon that truth will shine so clearly that their laughter will remain is regret. It is one thing for God to restore you privately, to heal your heart in secret, to mend the places no one else sees. But it is another thing entirely when God chooses to do His work openly, right where those who mocked you can see it. This is what Scripture means when it says, "He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Not in their absence, not in some distant land, but right there, in their presence. This is divine justice. The very people who rejoiced in your tears will be forced to watch as God wipes them away. The same voices that laughed at your silence will hear the sound of your song. The ones who mocked your downfall will stand in awe of your rising. God does not only heal, He vindicates. And vindication is not hidden, it is displayed. They will see you walk into rooms they never believed you would enter. They will hear your name spoken with honor when they once spoke it with scorn. They will watch opportunities open for you that no one expected. And the more they see, the heavier their regret will become. Because regret grows strongest, not in darkness, but in the light of undeniable truth. This is why you must not grow bitter. You don't have to plot revenge or fight back with the same weapons they used. The greatest response you can give is to continue walking with God, because His way of repaying you is far greater than anything you could imagine. While they plotted your fall, He was designing your future. While they mocked your pain, He was laying the foundation for your rise. And when He raises you, there will be no mistaking it. It won't be because of luck or chance or even your own strength alone. It will be the hand of God, and that undeniable reality will pierce them. They will regret every laugh, every word, every moment of joy they took in your suffering, because in your rising, God will declare His faithfulness, and their mockery will be exposed as foolishness. Picture it. The table of blessings spread out before you, the oil of favor poured over you, the cup of abundance running over, and all of this unfolding in the presence of those who once said you would never make it. Their regret will not only come from watching you rise, but from realizing they wasted their energy rejoicing in your pain instead of humbling themselves before the God who lifted you. This is how God works. He doesn't just lift you privately. He makes sure those who once mocked you cannot escape seeing the very glory they tried to deny you. And in that moment, their laughter will collapse into silence, and silence into regret. Laughter is meant to be a gift, a sound that heals, comforts, and binds hearts together. But when laughter is twisted into mockery, it becomes a weapon. You know the sting of that weapon. You know what it feels like when people did not just walk past your pain, but rejoiced in it. Their laughter was not innocent. It was meant to humiliate, to magnify your weakness, to remind you of your fall. But here is the truth. Laughter rooted in cruelty does not endure. What was once a chorus of joy will one day turn into the silence of shame. God has a way of exposing hearts. For a time, He allows people to reveal who they truly are. He gives space for them to display their arrogance, their gloating, their cruelty, and when the moment of exposure comes, it is not your shame that is revealed, it is theirs. What they thought was strength will be unmasked as cowardice. What they believed was triumph will be seen as foolishness, and the laughter that once filled the air will turn into shame that burns their very souls. The while the sun tendeth cools, the shoe worn barely once will be seen as foolishness, and the laughter that once filled the air will turn into shame that burns their very soul. Think of it this way. Shame is the harvest of cruelty. When someone plants seeds of mockery, they may laugh in the beginning, but the harvest will come, and when it does, the fruit is bitter. Their memories of rejoicing in your downfall will no longer bring them delight, but torment. The same moments they replayed with laughter will echo back in their minds with regret. God will not let their laughter stand as victory. He will turn it into a haunting reminder of their arrogance. Victory, He will also turn it into a haunting reminder of their arrogance. And the shift will not be subtle, it will be dramatic. Those who once stood tall in their mockery will find themselves shrinking under the weight of shame. Those who once raised their voices in laughter will lower their heads in silence. Those who once found joy in your tears will find no rest in their own. This is not because you sought vengeance, but because God's justice demands balance. The laughter of cruelty cannot remain unchallenged, and the justice of God will ensure it turns into shame. Here is the mystery. Their shame becomes the stage for your vindication. As God lifts you, their regret deepens. As He blesses you, their shame grows heavier, and the more they see your rising, the more they are confronted with the reality that their laughter was misplaced. What they mocked was not your failure, but the work of God in progress. What they laughed at was not your ending, but your preparation. Question: what have I done as your Odessa? And now, their shame is the testimony that God has always been on your side. So do not dwell on their laughter. It was never as powerful as it seemed. Let God turn it into what it truly is, a shallow sound that cannot withstand His justice. And when He does, the same people who laughed will be the ones who cannot lift their heads, for their shame will speak louder than their laughter ever did. Joy is meant to be holy. It is meant to reflect the goodness of God, the delight of creation, the beauty of life. But when joy is twisted into the celebration of another's pain, it ceases to be joy. It becomes corruption. There were people who took delight in your downfall, who smiled when you were broken, who found comfort in your sorrow. They did not merely ignore your suffering, they enjoyed it. But what they called joy will not last. God will turn it into a haunting memory. Regret is a heavy burden, and it weighs most on those who rejoiced in the wrong things. When they celebrated your pain, they thought they were secure, untouchable, victorious. But in time, those memories will rise against them. Their minds will not be able to silence the images of your tears, the echoes of their laughter, the weight of their cruelty. God has a way of making the very things people delight in become the very things that haunt them. Their joy will turn into torment when they see how God restores you. Every moment they mocked will return to them like a mirror, showing not your weakness but their wickedness. They will look back and realize that what they celebrated was not your destruction, but their own downfall in disguise. Because while they laughed, God was preparing your elevation. And when that elevation comes, their past joy will become unbearable regret. This is the nature of divine justice. It doesn't only reverse the situation externally, it confronts the heart internally. The haunting will not come from outside, it will come from within. Their own memories will rise up against them. Their own laughter will condemn them. Their own delight will turn into dread. They will replay in their minds the very moments they once thought were victories, and those memories will torment them more deeply than any punishment. And you will not need to lift a finger. This is not about vengeance. It is about the weight of conscience under the hand of God. He knows how to make memory itself a punishment. He knows how to turn joy into sorrow, laughter into weeping, celebration into haunting. So when you remember how they rejoiced in your downfall, take comfort in this. God will not let those moments stand unchallenged. He will not let their false joy echo forever. Instead, He will turn it back on them until the very moments they cherished become the chains that bind their conscience. And while you rise in freedom, they will live in regret. There is a truth often overlooked. When people rise against you, they are not only touching your life, they are touching the hand that protects you. When they laughed at your pain, when they mocked your tears, when they celebrated your loss, their actions went further than they realized. They thought they were simply mocking you, a fragile human being, a soul caught in weakness. But in reality, they were mocking the God who created you, the God who sustains you, the God who calls you his own. This is why their regret will cut so deeply, because one day they will understand that their laughter was not harmless, their joy in your suffering was not innocent. They were standing against heaven itself. Every mocking word, every smirk, every cruel delight was an offense against the God who watches over his children. And when he rises to defend you, they will realize too late what they have done. Scripture tells us that when Saul persecuted the early believers, the voice of God met him on the road and asked, "Why are you persecuting me?" Notice the question. God did not say, "Why are you persecuting my people?" He said, "Why are you persecuting me?" Because to touch God's children is to touch him. To mock their suffering is to mock his care. To rejoice in their pain is to challenge his authority. This is why their regret will not only be sorrow over how they treated you, but horror over the realization of whom they stood against. For what greater mistake can there be than to mock the very hand that holds the universe together? What greater folly than to laugh at a wound God was watching with compassion? And so their regret will not be fleeting. It will be eternal. For when God vindicates you, they will see that every laugh was a laugh against him, every mockery an insult to his name. Their regret will pierce like an arrow, because they will know their actions were not only cruel, but blasphemous. This truth should strengthen you, because it reminds you that you are not alone, not forgotten, not unprotected. Every time they laughed, God was watching. Every time they mocked, he took note. And when he moves to lift you, to restore you, to bless you, their regret will come not only from seeing your rising, but from realizing their fight was with the Almighty himself. So walk in confidence, even if their voices still echo in your memory. For God is not mocked, and he will not allow his children to be ridiculed without response. Their regret will teach them that to mock your pain was to provoke his justice. And when he acts, his justice is final, his defense undeniable, and his vindication unshakable. Beloved, let these words settle into your heart. God has seen every moment of your pain. He has counted every tear, and he has recorded every smirk, every laugh, every mocking word spoken against you. The world may have moved on, but heaven has not. God has not forgotten the nights you cried alone, nor the moments when others rejoiced in your suffering. Do not be disheartened by their laughter, for it will not last. God himself will turn their joy into regret, their celebration into silence, their mockery into shame. And when he lifts you, it will not be in secret. It will be in the very presence of those who once thought you would never rise again. Your pain has not been wasted. It has been the soil for your strength, the seed for your blessing, the preparation for your elevation. What they thought destroyed you has only built you. And soon they will see that their laughter was nothing more than a shallow sound against the eternal plan of God. So hold your head high. Do not waste energy on revenge. Trust the one who fights for you, because in his time he will make them regret every moment they rejoiced in your pain. And you, the one they mocked, will stand as a living testimony that no cruelty, no betrayal, no mockery can overpower the hand of God. Justice is not delayed, it is certain, and when it comes their regret will echo, but your joy will overflow, for the God who defends his children will always have the final word.